if I'm not loving my olive tree, how can I love God that I don't see? If I'm not able to love the people, how can I love God? So the land is also strengthening our faith. So the relationship with the land, we don't understand it until we mix our soils, we mix our hands with the soil. So we feel it, we understand it. And we dig around the tree. You feel the tree is saying thank you. You are protecting me. You are protecting me. You're giving me, and I will give you something back, the fruits.
Hey friends, this is co-host Jen. In this episode, I have a conversation with Daoud Nassar. Daoud's family steward the land and farm called Tent of Nations, which is a 100-acre farm located about 6 miles southwest of Bethlehem. In 1916, the land was purchased by Daoud Nassar, Daoud's grandfather. Their family cultivated the land as a vineyard, which they called Daoud's Vineyard. And it has since been stewarded by various family members throughout the generations, despite threats of land confiscation from Israel and the growing settlements surrounding the farm. And this is what we talk about today. We talk about his family's history of caring for Christian refugees from Al Nakba through the farm, their nearly 40-year struggle to keep their land amid a sea of growing settlements. And we talk theological about the relationship between faith, hope, suffering, and love. Daoud describes his family's commitment to nonviolent Christian peacebuilding and the spirituality of their stewardship of the land. We also discuss the necessary relationship between prayer and action, and Daoud offers how internationals can act by joining the Nassar family in solidarity, presence, and witness. Daoud is a native of Bethlehem, Palestine. He's a Palestinian Christian fluent in Arabic, German, and English, with a degree in biblical studies from a Bible school in Austria, a BA degree in business from Bethlehem University, and a degree in tourism management from Bielefeld University in Germany. He manages the farm known as Daoud's Vineyard, located in the West Bank of Palestine, and directs the work of the programs and projects known as Tent of Nations. And just to give you a little taste of some of the updates that you might hear in this conversation, I want to share with you a snippet from the most recent update from Tent of Nations from June 2025. In talking about the rapidly growing threats that they're facing from settlements enclosing their farm, they write, "We believe that even when we are physically confined, our spirit cannot be imprisoned. The Tent of Nations continues to inspire and empower people through our steadfast commitment to nonviolence, creativity, and faith. Our farm is a living testimony. We continue to cultivate the soil, plant seeds of hope in dry and difficult ground, and prepare the long path for justice." Friends, this conversation not only shares urgent updates from the farm and from the ongoing rapid developments of settler violence and occupation in the West Bank, but this episode offers a wellspring of theological reflection and hope from amid really dire conditions. So I'm really happy to share it with you. And you'll hear more of these kinds of reflections on how commitment to nonviolence, creativity, and faith are the work of faith cultivating justice. Daoud, welcome to Across the Divide podcast. It's really a blessing to have you here.
Thank you so much for this invitation.
Yeah, it's great to be having this conversation, and especially now when we know that the situation your family is facing is quite urgent. So actually, to start, some of our listeners will be very familiar with your family's story and with Tent of Nations, but a lot of our listeners won't be familiar. So to start, can you share what is the story of your family's relationship to the farm, to this land that you steward, and how has that relationship unfolded over the years?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Our story with this farm started about 100 years ago when the family bought this piece of land. Of course, like in the tradition here, the idea was like my grandmother wanted to give their children a better future. So they lived under the Ottoman rule. And then they thought, well, it's a time, 1916, the Ottomans are leaving. Maybe this is a new era, a new future. So they were farmers. So they bought this land to give a better future for their children. And they didn't know from the beginning that, well, the story would become more and more complicated, because the earth's first destruction my father and uncle experienced with their mother was in 1936, when about 25,000 trees were destroyed at that time on their farm, and made it difficult for them to survive. So they started again below zero, and then of course 48 came, 67. So one obstacle after the other, and that is why for us the relationship with the land is not only physical but also like spiritual. So it's about a story of identity, a story of being connected with the ground. So this is the tradition that we received from my grandparents over my father and uncle, and now we are on the farm, the third and the fourth generation. For us, also biblically, it's also when you read the parables of Jesus, so we experience that on the farm. So the Bible is becoming more real for us on the farm. So this is the two connections, the spiritual and the physical connection.
Thank you for sharing that. There's a lot that I want to ask you to get into that more, but maybe if we first stick with the physical connection. So what you described, this sort of first big struggle on the land was this uprooting of 25,000 trees in 1936. This was under British Mandate period at the time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then can you talk about what struggles came then in 1948 with the Nakba, the catastrophe of the Palestinian people, the creation of the State of Israel, and then in 1967, how have the pressures changed over the years with different occupiers, and then just the growing development of military occupation in the West Bank and Palestine?
Yeah, of course, the situation was getting more difficult during the British Mandate period, like 1917 through 1947, then 48. And with Al-Nakba, many people had to leave their own land in the north, and they became refugees. So my father was a preacher at that time, and he started a ministry among Christians, who had to leave their own land. They expelled from their land, and so they came into the southern part of the country, like Bethlehem and around, as maybe like a station before leaving the country, like many other Palestinians, or just to stay here. So my father started this mission with Christians around Bethlehem area, to strengthen them, to empower them to stay. So the focus was developing the land with his brother, but also like taking care of the people. And this is also very important because we feel like the land is like a mother. The land takes care of us, of their children, as well as we have also to do the same to take care of others. So this is the responsibility that my father took on his shoulders. So, and then, of course, after 1948 until 1967, the area where the land is the West Bank was under the Jordanian rule, And then with 1967, things were dramatically changed on the ground, and especially with land confiscation, expansion, or building new settlements, expanding the existing ones. And so we are still in that situation until today.
Hi, friends. There's an important conference happening soon, and I would love for you to attend. It's called Church at the Crossroads, happening on September 11 to 13 in Glen Ellen, right outside of Wheaton, Illinois. This is a first of its kind gathering that comes as a response to the pleas of Palestinian Christians who are asking the Church in North America to take a stand for peace and justice in Palestine and in Israel. It brings together several prominent Palestinian and American pastors, theologians, and speakers, and present an invitation to Christians, especially in the US, to come together for fellowship, learning, reflection, and faithful action. This is especially important when so many Christians have chosen to be silent and apathetic about the war and suffering of the people in Gaza. And many other Christians are complicit and have used the Bible to justify and whitewash that suffering and destruction. Across the Divide is one of the conveners of this conference. Also, I'm one of the speakers, and we are planning to have a get-together for the listeners of Across the Divide. I would love to see you there. So I encourage you to sign up right now at churchatthecrossroads.com. And when you do, type in the coupon ATD, which gives you a 10% registration discount. Again, the coupon is ATD. For more information about the speakers, the program, lodging, and more, again, check out the conference website, churchatthecrossroads.com. I think we're living at a crucial moment in the history of Christianity. And as many Palestinian Christians have been saying, Gaza has revealed a crisis in our faith. Come alongside me and many other Palestinian and American Christians, and let's do the work together. Let's live out the kingdom of God, the kingdom of peace and justice, and let's pursue that hard work of justice and peacemaking.
That piece of your family's history is so beautiful, of serving fellow Christians, supporting them, ministering to them, but mostly just supporting them as their refugees in a time of immense crisis. Was that happening on the land of the farm itself?
Mainly in Bethlehem area, but my father and uncle, they supported those families with products, with the products of the farm. So like they produce grapes, they give them grapes, like figs and other vegetables and fruits they grew on the farm. So this was how they did it.
So there's this very long history then at the farm of a sort of maybe embodied resistance or just kind of care for neighbor, which came out of your care and relationship to the land.
I always say, the land and the people should be always connected with one another. The land is important for the people, and also, people without the land, they have also an issue, a difficulty. So they need to be connected and related to it.
Yeah, and you offer that opportunity for a lot of people, locals, fellow Palestinian Christians and non-Christians, and also to a lot of foreigners, tens of thousands who have visited the farm over the years, who have heard of your story and come to bear witness and be a presence with you all. I want to ask you about the name. So your family started a foundation, and now the farm, your family farm, is known as Tent of Nations. Why that name, and what's the connection there to maybe the spiritual element that you named, the sort of spiritual connection to the land?
Thank you for this question. Of course, this is connected with the situation that we were and we are still going through. Just let me talk about the legal struggle, because in 1991, the Israeli authorities declared our farm as state land. So we started a legal battle to protect our rights to this land since then, and we are still in court until today, struggling between military and Supreme Court. We had also, and we still have, by the way, attacks from settlers who cut our trees, The physical pressure was increasing, and especially between 1991 and 2002. We also are becoming there at the farm more isolated because of the war, because of the restrictions on movements, fences, and all of that. So this situation is a situation that would force people whether to react negatively or sit down and cry or give up and leave. Because when people are provoked by violence, they might respond with violence. When people are pushed to the corner and have no hope for a better future, what can you expect? So for us, we said to ourselves, although the pressure was very big, what can we do in this situation? We are against violence, but at the same time, we are against being a victim, sitting down, crying, blaming, and not knowing what to do, but waiting for a political savior to come and help. We said being a victim is dangerous. And we are not giving up and leaving. We are not disconnecting this connection, with the land. Yeah, because we feel again, the spiritual connection, not only the physical. And that is why we started to say there must be another way of resisting the negatives, resisting the unjust situation, but in a different way, in a non-violent way. Then walking on that path is not that easy. It's a tiny path. It is full of challenges, difficulties, and it's easy to give up. That is why we put four principles or four things that became our principles in order to keep them in front of our eyes. And always when we feel differently, we are reminded by those principles. So the first principle, as we said, we refuse to be victims. It was important to move ourselves out of the victim mentality so that we could act instead of react, and to start acting differently. Secondly, we said we refuse to hate, and no one can force us to hate. Of course, easy said, very difficult to practice. And the third one, we said we are acting differently, not because it's a weakness or a strategy that we could change. No, it is based on our Christian faith, because I believe our Christian faith is a non-violent way of resistance. And fourthly, we said we are people who believe in justice. So although the way for justice is too long, too complicated, sometimes we feel it's so far away from us, but at the end, we believe that the Son of Justice will rise again. Justice will prevail one day. So with those four principles, we managed to walk on the different path, and we created a non-violent way of resistance. And our slogan is, we refuse to be enemies. And then we started to call the farm the Tent of Nations. Now the name, the Tent of Nations, is I would say three stories that are related to that. The first story is the Old Testament story. We are located on the way to Hebron, and Hebron is the house where Abraham lived, the place where Abraham lived, and Abraham is the father of all nations. So he used to have a tent, a shade, to accommodate or to welcome or to host his guests. So the tent for all nations came from that story. And the New Testament story is that when Jesus took three disciples on a mountain, the Transfiguration story, when Moses and Elijah appeared, with Jesus. And then one of the disciples said, let's make three tents, three shades, and we have the three tents. So as a symbolic to that story, because for us, a shade is maybe enough to host people under it.
There's so much rich biblical symbolism in, in that name. But I think even just, I'm really struck by the way that it's rooted in, like you said, I mean, and really in all of your core principles, but especially your belief that this is the response to have out of the Christian faith,
Exactly.
Not because it's a strategic response or any other reason, but because this is actually what Jesus calls us to do, to refuse to hate, to refuse to be enemies, and to respond with nonviolence. And like you mentioned, all of those are not easy tasks. They're quite difficult. But I'm really struck by the way that the name of the farm embodies your family's belief that there's actually no other way for you as Christians living in the land, being caught up in the struggle for your land for over 40 years now. Daoud, are there days where you doubt that? I mean, you named that each of these, of course, are not easy pathways to take, and especially just the path of nonviolence. How do you navigate maybe when that wavers, or when you have questions about this being the path forward as a way for your family to remain and be witness on the land and cultivate your relationship with it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we are people. I mean, like look at the time of Jesus. Even the disciples, they were with Jesus. They knew from the beginning that he will protect them, he will save them. But they also have this doubt, and doubt is also important to strengthen the faith. But it's very important, I would say that sometimes doubt and faith are connected here. The moment you start to doubt, you start to strengthen your faith, because faith is like you are expecting this to happen, and you have the right to doubt. Now, through our experience with all the difficulties that we faced already on the farm, there was always a way out from that situation. Even in situation we thought, okay, that's the end of the story. And I believe, many people might think, well, struggling for around 40 years in the courts to protect your land, and you are still there. Many people don't believe it. And I think this is because of this strength, the strength of this story. Yeah. But sometimes we are really deep down, feeling like we are alone in this struggle. But again, we are reminded with our 4 principles. We decided, it was not like others who decided for us to walk on this path. We made this decision. We know it's hard, but even in the time where we felt like so deep down, we experienced the meaning of hope in that situation. And the way that the fact that we are still there, we are on the land, we are not giving up, we are standing there with steadfastness. The people that are around us is the proof that that faith and hope and love are connected together. And with faith and hope and love, we are able to continue the journey.
Do you think your faith would be different if your family had not endured this struggle? I mean, you just said, in those sort of, in the deepest kind of moments and experiences of despair is where you feel like you really experienced hope. And then, you said something similar about how doubt is actually, you've experienced that to be an essential part of faith. Do you think your faith would be different if you did not have this sort of ongoing experience, you and your family.
Yes, probably, because I mean, let us say you can, let us say, experience faith in times of trouble, because when things are going well, sometimes our faith is not that strong. We say, like if we are living in a stable situation, I do my work, I feed my family, I do vacation, sometimes it's really difficult to think about the relation, our relationship with God. But in times of trouble, we feel more this connection because, at that time, let's say in a normal situation, we think always that we are in charge. I can decide for myself. I can do this. I can do that. We are in charge. But the moment we start having like a trouble, whatever could be like family issue or, or health issues or political issues, we start to feel, oh, where is God from that situation? Where is God here? I pray to you, but no answer. What's going on? And that is why the faith is much stronger when, I don't want to say when it's tempted, when you go through a difficult situation. But again, like passing through a difficult situation can be a blessing for other people. It's also very important to say sometimes, like we feel like look, the suffering. Jesus suffered on the cross, but his suffering became a blessing because he saved us through his suffering. He saved us. And sometimes we see like the difficult situation, or we have to believe that too, like the difficult situation that we are facing or other people are facing sometimes can become a blessing to other people. Sometimes like a word you can say might help people to find their way in life, to be strengthened, to be encouraged. And this is sometimes we experience that without even giving or without even talking about it. Like when international volunteers, for example, are on the farm and see how we are dealing with this situation differently and positively, they feel strengthened. They feel this energy, and they always tell me like, we feel this place is a very special place. Yeah. And this is exactly what is all about.
Thank you for that. Your kind of way of thinking about suffering takes it beyond an individual experience, that it's not just an experience that one has with one's own suffering or with God, but that it affects everyone around us potentially, and even our relationship to place and land, and especially if we invite others into that kind of experience. About a month ago, when I was in Palestine, I got to visit you and your family on the farm with a good friend, and we said something to the effect of, we were talking about the importance of having international volunteers there and what that might do to strengthen you all, to uplift your spirits, to provide kind of spiritual support. And you said, yes, but also it goes both ways. Right through both of our experiences here on the land, we do that mutual work of reinforcing and strengthening and providing spiritual encouragement to one another. And so that, to me, like, that really struck me because it wasn't a way that I was thinking about this sort of work of resistance and solidarity. And so I feel like what you just shared was another way of thinking about struggle and suffering as a sort of collective kind of experience rather than just personal.
Yeah, it's very important. We see that as mutual because one thing, before I continue that, is also like, Jesus is calling us not to be victims. You are able to make a difference even in a difficult situation. You remember the the biblical story when I think Peter and John went to pray in Jerusalem, and there was a guy sitting in front of the temple with special needs, and he was asking for financial support, But Peter or John, he said, I don't have money to give you, but what I do have, I want to give. So he took his hand, which means, and the guy stood up, which means in our situation, do not stay as a victim. What you need is somebody to let you or to show you your strength, that you are strong enough to do that. You are able to make a difference. It's not about what your situation in life is, but you are able to make a difference. And this is important words for us. Under difficult circumstances, we are able to make a difference, and we are able to empower other people. And that is why we invite international volunteers, of course, as a protective presence. And you know how important the international presence nowadays there, and especially with the outpost that is being built close to our farm. But also, this support must be mutual. And one thing is, this is one of the active solidarity that we are in need of. Sometimes people might say, well, we pray for you, which is good. But also, sometimes we use it, sometimes as a comfortable situation. I pray for you, God will change your situation, But, sometimes we take it as a passive thing, But prayers also needs actions. And in our situation, one of the actions is to come, to be with the people. And this is why we appreciate the presence of the internationals, taking the time to come in this very difficult situation and to stand and to walk with us on the journey for justice. But at the same time, their giving is not just only one-sided. Just they come here to give, their time, their effort. No, it's about we want them also to receive something back. So that's why this relationship is very important. So they come, they support us, but we hope always that those people will go back home, changed, and become change makers, peacemakers in their own communities.
That's such a beautiful way of introducing us to the kind of thing that happens at the farm when internationals visit. And I think I really appreciate your challenge to prayer. I know that for many of us, maybe especially Western Christians, but I think Christians across the board, prayer is a comfortable place for us to be. Right, to hear terrible news, or to know that someone is enduring something terrible, and to offer prayer. I mean, it is a response of comfort, but it's also in a lot of ways an easy place for us to stay. And so you reminding us that yes, prayer is important, but prayer cannot stand alone. It must change us in some way, and that requires action. So that feels like a really important call in a lot of ways, especially for Christians engaging with Palestinian Christians, that prayer is so important, and also it can't be our only form of engagement.
Yeah, no, prayers are very important, because we also need this spiritual support, because without this spiritual support, we are lost. We can't continue, deal with this difficult situation, generally speaking. But also, I feel, the situation won't be changed without the involvement of the people. I believe that we are all God's hands and feet on this earth. So I can't, if I feel my neighbor is in need of something, and I know that I'm able to help him with, then I can't just say, well, I am praying for you, God will provide. But I know that God is asking me to do something for this guy, So this is very important for us. Like, prayer is connected with actions. Yeah, just it's a living, it's a like a moving like situation, like the water. If it's like still, the water would be bad water. But when the water keeps, like the stream keeps flowing, the water is pure, is fresh. And this is exactly about the prayer. So if the prayer just like, repeating without actions that are connected with it, then it's like, it's dead. And this is, we have to keep always in mind. And the issue of like, we as Christians worldwide, we are people who work for justice. Where are the actions that are connected with it? This is also very important. Sometimes we have to be angry about that. Anger is not the problem. Anger can lead you to a good actions. So that is why the whole issue, like with faith, and is important. Like it's connected with faith and deeds. You believe and you act, and that's why we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I agree, and that felt like such an important word from you. And I think that just what you said at the end there reminded me of some of the prophetic scriptures that say, why do you who proclaim to love justice not show with your actions? And so I think there are a lot of spaces where justice is talked about a lot, like you're saying, within closed doors. Where does that meet our actions? How does it get embodied through our daily lives? And so this feels like connected to so many of the conversations we have on the podcast of how do we draw these connections between our faith and what the injustice that we see in Palestine, that Palestinians are facing daily, with what we can do. So I guess maybe on that note, I want to make sure that we get to talking about some updates in terms of what's happening at the farm. And then maybe we can loop back to this to really think about what listeners can do when it comes to supporting and being in relation with you all at the farm. So you mentioned before, Daoud, that for almost 40 years, your family has been in and out of court. And that that designation of your land by the state of Israel in the 90s, that your land was public or state lands. This is a tactic that is used widely by the Israeli government as a way to annex, to take Palestinian-owned land, and especially land in the West Bank. And so I just want to flag that for our listeners, that this is not unique in the form of the tactic, that many people face this. And so is there anything that you want to say about what that looks like in terms of your battle with the courts, and how long that has gone on and continues today?
Yeah, well, we are struggling to keep this farm since 1991. Like after the Israeli authorities declared it as state land, so the land is located in the center of 5 settlements, which makes it the only hilltop in that area that is without a settlement. So we decided to challenge that, because we own the land. I mean, we always say, we don't own the land. We say, we are the stewards of the land. Yeah, this is we are the land keepers. Yeah, and also we want to keep what was given for us as a gift, and a gift is something special. You cannot just leave it or say, well, I don't care about it, or even sell it or whatever. No, a gift is a responsibility. And out of this responsibility, we decided to go on this long struggle, a legal battle to protect our farm. So 10 years in front of the military court, and then between 2002 and 2006 in front of the Supreme Court, and now back to the military court with re-registration. They asked us, the Supreme Court recognized our ownership to the land, but we have to go through the process of re-registration. So we started the first time 2007, and they claimed, we did not submit enough documents. Then we started the second time in 2013, and they claimed that they lost our file. And the third time, 2015, we are still in this situation. And recently, they opened 2 roads on our property a few months ago. And then they established an outpost at the edge of our property. So the situation is escalating. It's not that easy. But you can give up. You can't give up in this situation. There will be justice happening. I don't know when, but justice will come. And out of our beliefs, we continued the journey until today. But not only to focus on that, on that path, we wanted also to make the land as a place of healing. So that is why we started to invite the people there to work the land, to develop it, but also to be encouraged through what we are doing. And this is a way for us to minister. This is our ministry. The land is becoming our ministry, our place of hope. The place, even in a difficult political reality, is the place we get our strength. While I'm watering the olive trees, I get my strength back. I get my motivation back. I could talk to the olive tree. So all of that is helpful to remain our faith. You feel the land is playing a big role in keeping our faith alive. And this is the gift that we received, we want to share with other people.
And if you think the conversations we are having are necessary, then I invite you to consider becoming a monthly Patreon supporter of the podcast on patreon.com/Across the Divide. By sustaining our work, you also get access to various kinds of premium content like extended episode conversations, merch discounts, and private meetings with the hosts of the podcast and other Patreon supporters. So help us to continue growing our small podcast and join the beautiful community of Across the Divide by signing up at patreon.com/Across the Divide.
I think I can just think of so many who would benefit from that gift of the land that you have received, and now you are freely giving and sharing. And I felt it even from being there for a very brief time. I was there for half of a day with you last month and got to water little saplings and fairly new lemon trees that had been planted. And there is that you can feel the relationship, and also you can feel the Spirit present. That it's not just soil and trees and vegetables and you as a human. That God is present there, and I think that presence has been stewarded and tended by your family for generations and by so many others in a way that it is a special place. And I would even say a sacred place, and in a place where land has been prayerfully tended for generations and generations. Yes, that becomes sacred.
And this is what we feel. And that is why we cannot give it up. We want to open it for people, but without disconnecting ourselves from the land.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, Daoud, if you can share a little bit more about this sort of quickening realities that you're facing at the farm. So aside from the battle in the courts, which you still have not been able to renew and re-register your land, even though you have documentation of your family's ownership of the land, right, from all of the periods of occupation going back to the Ottoman period. That's one struggle that you've been facing. And then a different struggle, but certainly connected, is the growth and expansion of settlements all around your farm on this hilltop, which you've kind of described to us, the last standing hilltop that does not have a settlement on it. Just in the past month, this outpost has been placed right on the edge of your property. And this comes on the heels of the main entrance to your farm being blocked off, new roads being constructed on the land that you own itself. So can you just tell us a little bit about what are the threats there that you're facing with these new developments, and what has the experience been like for you and your family navigating these really, really rapidly developing sort of realities right at the edges of your farm?
Yes, well, these are like recent developments, and they are, they are rapidly, like so quickly. Every day something new. So first, the main access to the property was blocked for us. We used to walk from Road 60 to the farm, as well as the volunteers. They blocked it. In February, they opened a road that stopped at the edge of our property. In March and May, the settlers opened two roads, and two of them are passing through our property. We are trying we reacted legally to stop this construction, and we brought this case to the Supreme Court, and then was to the civil court in Jerusalem, and now back to the Supreme Court. And also, they as you said, they put a roadblock in up front of our entrance. So a big part of our land we cannot reach right now because we are afraid from attacks from settlers. This is the first time they come on our hilltop with a new outpost that is being built at the edge of our property. We, like in the last years, we experienced the expansion of the settlements, but they are all on the other hilltops surrounding the farm. But for the first time, they come now very close. Now the danger is, or the concern, if radical settlers would live there, how the situation would look like. That is why, the more international presence we have, the better to protect, and the better to preserve the land, and to minimize, let us say, to the risks of attacks from settlers. But also the road between Bethlehem and the farm, which is connecting not only the farm but the main road. This last road is connecting 5 villages with the city of Bethlehem, and there is a gate installed recently, and if the gate is closed, so people won't be able to reach to their communities. We won't be able to cross from and to Bethlehem. This situation, of course, will make it difficult for us to exist, because we are depending on the city of Bethlehem with all services, and especially at the farm, we are not having running water, no electricity, and we can't build that much. We need a building permit that is difficult to get. So our concern right now, or our big goal, is how to make the farm self-sufficient in terms of energy, water, wastewater treatment, because these questions are important for us to exist. Because the moment we are totally disconnected from Bethlehem, it would become very difficult for us to exist there. So that is why we try to survive on a daily basis, but also we try to think ahead and try to prepare ourselves for the worst, but at the same time to hope for the best.
Okay, so those are a lot of really recent developments that are happening within a really close vicinity around your farm. And when you mention this new outpost that is being built, truly like going up within days, when you say close to the farm, we're talking 3-4 meters, right? I mean, it's your fence, a very narrow road, and then the outpost just on the other side of that road.
Exactly. And this,
Yeah. And as a reminder for our listeners, outposts are oftentimes the precursor to settlements.
Yeah.
So they're very quick, small villages that are built with what look like single or double wide trailers. There's something that can go up very quickly within a couple of days before international or Palestinian or Israeli intervention can happen. And then those sort of mobile structures are slowly replaced by permanent infrastructure until the settlement is fully developed. And have you seen the outpost be sort of completed, or is it still actively expanding, Daoud?
well, they are building. You remember like a month ago, you see the workers were building those mobile homes, and now they continue to build. I think around 20, they are now existing there. Yeah. So it's quickly. It's like on daily basis, and they have all the infrastructure.
So and I just wanted to note too, within the current political context where settler violence is going largely unchecked by the Israeli government, is rapidly on the rise. This is the context in which you're living, and this is why you say we don't access certain parts of our property because we fear for the potential violence from settlers. Because you've seen, and I mean, we can see other places all around the West Bank where settler violence is indiscriminate and where Palestinians are being murdered and no investigations into their murder whatsoever. So,
Yeah, it's really very concerning for us. It's a new and big challenge.
the sort of last piece too that you mentioned, which other guests have talked about in other episodes, and I know Mantar Itzhak in his conversation with Dalia Kamsia, they spent a little bit of time just talking about all of the new gates and checkpoints that have been installed in the last 2 years just around Bethlehem alone. And now that you can no longer access your farm from the primary entrance, you have to go right sort of a back road through several different villages to be able to access your farm. And I remember when we were on the way there, I think we counted at least 3 new gates that are installed at different villages. And so if any of those are closed, that cuts off access to and from your farm. And these closures happen often and without warning, right? A gate will be closed. There's no access in or out of a village. And this is becoming more of a daily experience, would you say?
Yes. Yeah. Every day, like you just like wake up in the morning and you don't know what's happening. So, for example, if I'm in Bethlehem, I call a taxi driver or I call a friend that is living in that village and said, okay, how are the roads there? Is any of the gates are closed? So just like to be informed ahead. This is the way how we inform ourselves. So every day is a new story for us, and that is why it's really very difficult to organize ourselves. You never know. So I want to meet some people there, but maybe maybe the road is blocked. Like today, for example, we planned to have our meeting at 7. Because I was thinking, like, what if there would be a checkpoint, a flying checkpoint on the road? So at least to give myself like 3 hours to come to Bethlehem. And we are talking about a distance like maybe 8 miles. But I was calculating like 3 hours for that. So that was, and today there was no flying checkpoint. The gate was open. So it was easy for me to get to Bethlehem. But you never know. So on daily basis, things might change every minute. And this is what makes also life more more difficult for the people and stressful. Not only just difficult, but stressful.
Yeah, immensely stressful to have to calculate which roads are open, which checkpoints are open or closed, and figure out how to just live, right? How to travel for a meeting, to go to work, to water your olive trees, to go to church, to visit a family member. All of this movement is becoming increasingly restricted and hangs in the balance and ultimately the control of the Israeli military. So this is obviously a part of your struggle in stewarding your land at the farm, but it's also part of the larger struggle that the Palestinians are facing right now on a daily basis throughout the West Bank. So it's helpful to hear this from you because, especially in the United States, much of our news remains focused on Gaza, and rightfully so, with the ongoing atrocity and genocide and forced hunger. But we're not seeing as many of these updates of what Palestinians are facing in just their day-to-day in the West Bank. And it's really a dire situation.
It's very difficult. That is why I want to say here the meaning of hope is important to deal with this kind of reality, which means like we are experiencing now a new meaning of hope for us. It's not to hope for tomorrow, but to be able to do what you are able to do on this day. This is the real hope, to live the day and try to do the best out of it in this very difficult situation. Because the moment you think about tomorrow, I mean, we do, of course, it's really hard. Even if you have thousands of plans and dreams that you want to achieve, but all those dreams might be stopped with closing a gate or a flying checkpoint.
Yeah, having a more full picture of these realities just gives so much more context to your kind of understanding of hope, your understanding of faith and doubt and faith of really being born in and needing a sort of context of hardship and suffering. So it gives it a different sort of color to understand the steadfastness of your faith and really your theology in light of circumstances that many have never and will never have to face in their life.
Exactly.
I'm wondering, Daoud, as we wrap up our conversation, if you might want to speak to what it is that you are inviting others into right now. We now understand the ongoing struggle of your family with this land and the current threats that you're facing on a daily basis. What is your invitation for those who now know your story and are thinking, what's the act part of my prayer? What would you say to them? How can we lean into action in addition to joining with your family in prayer?
Yeah, when Nathanael, the biblical story, was sitting under a fig tree, and Philip came to him and he said, "We found the Messiah." And he was asking him, "Where is he coming from?" He said, "From Nazareth." And he said, "Nothing good comes out of Nazareth." So he did not argue with him. He said, "Come and see." And this is exactly what we say today. The best way of an active solidarity with us, with our cause, with the people, is to come and see. It's possible. And then we are asking the people to go back home and tell. And we are asking them to tell not only what they've heard, but what they've seen. So the one sign of an active solidarity is to be with us, to come here, to spend some time, to be with the people, to listen to their stories, try to make a face to the story, bring their stories to your congregations, to your communities. This is how you bring our voices to be heard in your communities. So come and see and go back home and tell.
Thank you, Daoud. That's, I think that's what we need to hear. And you do. We'll share, the links to the Tent of Nations website, of course, in the show notes. But you have short-term, long-term volunteer opportunities for individuals, for groups, for families. When I visited you a month ago, I met an amazing family from the Netherlands who have been visiting you for over 10 years. And basically taking their time of family vacation to come and spend it with you all each year. And that to me was one of the most beautiful pictures of solidarity and Christian communion that they understood. Like we're connected, we're family. What our sort of role is to be here with you, to be together and to have a presence here.
Very important. And even people can stay with us, like we have a space for small groups to stay at the farm. It's a way to show this solidarity. We have a chapel that we can use for prayers there, so we can live our faith like in the biblical time.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So for people too that are organizing trips to visit Palestine, they can come visit and stay with you, spend time with you all on the farm. And I know you all have been working to be able to host even more people. So these are things for us to put on our radars if we're planning trips. If we know someone who's planning a trip, put it on their mind to visit and spend time at Tent of Nations. For listeners, if you've been thinking about joining the Across the Divide delegation, the trip we're leading next May, you can be excited that you might get to visit Daoud and his family in person and spend some time with them on the land. This is what we're hoping for. So thank you for that, for sharing so much with us, Daoud, and really, again, in this conversation, I'm feeling deeply encouraged by your faith and by the decisions that your family has made over the generations to commit to the way of Christ, which is a way of love, and a way of nonviolence, and a way of communal care and stewardship. So thank you for your witness and for sharing that with all of our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. As we close, I'm wondering if I can just ask you one more question. At the very beginning of our conversation, you said, the Bible is changing for us all the time. It's coming to life in new ways through our relationship to the land. What's one way that the Bible is coming to life for you in new ways right now?
Well, I feel, for example, like God created the people to take care, to be stewards of the land. And what we are experiencing right now is all over, there is the destruction of the land is happening, whether by wars, by cutting forests, we are destroying for our own benefits. We are destroying the land, and that is why it's like the relationship between people and God should be reflected on the other humans that are the others that are on on this ground, on this earth, but also related to the earth. So if I'm not loving my olive tree, how can I love God that I don't see? If I'm not able to love the people, how can I love God? So the land is also strengthening our faith. So the relationship with the land, we don't understand it until we mix our soils, we mix our hands with the soil. So we feel it, we understand it. And we dig around the tree. You feel the tree is saying thank you. You are protecting me. You are protecting me. You are giving me, and I will give you something back. The fruits. I will give you fruits out of this hard work. So this is actually our faith. Our faith is growing and growing like a seed, in the ground. So if this seed does not have a ground, the roots cannot go into the ground, and so the seed cannot grow and become like a tree. So that is why we need always the ground to strengthen our faith. So this is how I see it.
I can't think of a better way to end our conversation. I'm in awe of some of the beauty that you just articulated. If we can't love the olive tree, how will we love God? If we can't love our neighbor, how will we love God? Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful conversation, Daoud. And we will continue to come alongside your family in all the ways that we can, in prayer and in action. Thank you for the ways that you've reminded us and encouraged us in this faithful work.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Across the Divide. We are so grateful for your support and interest. The hosts of this podcast are Daniel Bannoura, Jennifer Madrand, and myself, Abir Shhali. Salim Anfous is our producer. Our theme music is composed by Charlie Rishmawi. To help sustain the work of this podcast, please consider becoming a financial supporter of Across the Divide. Any donation amount makes a difference, and with a donation of as little as $5 a month, you will gain access to exclusive supporter-only content. Go to patreon.com/acrossthedivide to learn more and donate. For any feedback or suggestions, connect with us on Instagram at Across the Divide Podcast. Until next time, stay curious, stay passionate, stay engaged, and join us again on Across the Divide.